USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Tap the banner to learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Please be advised that the following program contains audio content that may be graphic and potentially triggering for some listeners. This content may include descriptions or sounds that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is strongly advised. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Is it possible that certain personality traits could predict who's most likely to invade somebody's privacy for a sexual crime? Well, there's a new study that says yes. The findings pretty uncomfortable, and we're going to dive in here with Dr. Dean Fido, a forensic psychology professor at the University of Derby in the UK. Dean, welcome to the program.
Hey, David. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into the results here, the term upskirting, kind of uncomfortable. Can you walk me through what it is from like a psychological point of view? Maybe not legally, but as a behavior? Like what's happening when somebody does that?
Yeah, of course. So it's a very gendered term. Typically, females are the individuals who are wearing skirts. And in the UK especially, we're trying to get rid of that term. And I'll tell you a bit why that now. What the behavior is when individuals use cameras or recording equipment to take pictures or images of genitalia underneath somebody's clothing. So you might have also heard of the term down blousing, which is looking from the top of an individual. And it doesn't just have to be female victims, it can be male victims or any type of gendered victim.
So what made you and your co-authors interested in studying this form of like image-based sexual abuse as opposed to maybe some other digital kind of crimes?
Yeah, of course. So we run a team whereby we're interested in all different types of image-based sexual abuse. So you may have heard of the term revenge pornography, deepfake sexual abuse, which is more in the media, currently cyber flashing. I'm sure your listeners might be okay with some of those terms associated with that. And upskirting was one of the terms which wasn't receiving much psychological-based intervention or assessment. And so we wanted to be one of the first individuals, the first groups to actually explore that through a psychological lens.
So the headline from your research, your findings, is there's this strong link for people who perform this kind of abuse to psychopathy.
Yes.
Walk me through that. What are some of these psychopathic traits that make someone more willing to commit these acts?
Yeah, of course. I'm really glad you said the phrase psychopathic trait. So when we think of psychopathy, we instantly go to murderers, serial killers, your Ted Bundys. But when we refer to psychopathic traits, what we're looking at is how individuals can be callous, they might lack empathy, they might be really manipulative, they might be sadistic in nature, they might have quite high narcissistic personality traits. And it's the amalgamation of these traits which spur people to behave both physically and, as we've shown in online spaces, in sexually deviant manners.
Now, is there a difference based on how you're judged in terms of the harm, like the harm caused by this act, whether the victim is a man or a woman?
Yeah, so we developed a vignette, which is a scenario-based examination whereby we had individuals at a spa setting. So to get around that gendered term of wearing a skirt, we had the individuals in spa robes, and we asked our participants to imagine what these individuals would be like lying in a spa setting, and they had the ability almost to look up the dressing gowns and take images should they wish. This was all kind of a metaphorical perspective. And what we found is that individuals who were male victims, our participants felt that there was a lot less harm, a lot more blame, and certainly a lot less criminality associated with these individuals being victims.
What do you make of that? I would say both types of victim, male, female, are kind of being hurt in the same way. It's kind of surprising that there's this gap.
Oh, of course. And that's exactly what lots of our researchers argued. And we see a similar pattern regardless of whether it's quote unquote revenge pornography or deepfake sexual abuse. We see that males who are victimized have a lot less impact associated with them. This has implications for how victims can seek help across barriers, how they deal with police, how they deal with courtroom settings, and within those courtroom settings, how the general public can perceive them as victims should it go to trial.
You asked your participants a question that kind of gives me chills.
Yes.
It's basically, would you commit this act if you knew you would not get caught? Would you take a photo of someone? Would you look at someone, invade their privacy, commit this form of abuse if you knew you wouldn't get caught? What does that question reveal about a certain individual if they answer it in kind of a negative, if they say yes?
So that question came out of this difficulty in terms of getting people to admit whether they have or have not engaged in such behaviours in the past. And because this was only just made illegal at the time of data collection, we didn't have any actual forensic populations, any people within prison settings to do these examinations on. So this is what we deem to be called a proclivity question. Now, proclivity means somebody's propensity to engage in a particular behaviour. And by saying if you had 0% chance to get caught, what we're effectively saying is if there are no bad things that would happen to you associated with this, would you or would you not engage in that behaviour? Interestingly, in the future, what we want to do is change that question slightly from 0% chance to get caught to 25% to 50%. And what we envisage is that people with these higher psychopathic personality traits would be reporting yes, regardless of that chance.
I want to move the conversation a bit towards some of these other forms of like abuse, like deep fake revenge pornography.
Sure.
What are your findings, or perhaps just your background as a forensic psychology professor? What do they tell you about that sort of act? Like who's likely to go on Grok, ask the AI to generate an image of someone I know without their consent that is horrific? Like, what sort of personality traits? Because we hear about this happening so much these days.
So psychopathy is prevalent across all of these traits. We also have, in particular, when it comes to quote-unquote revenge pornography, this belief in a just world. And what that means is people that believe that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people, they're more likely to engage in these behaviours, potentially because, well, if you were sharing those quite raunchy images on Instagram, of course that was going to happen to you. If you were sharing these naked images with a partner, of course that was going to happen to you. And we also see an elevated rise in individuals with high levels of sadism, people who are older, and of course, people who are male as well.
That's a weird mix, psychopathy and a belief that the world should be fair. That can sort of entitle anybody to commit any negative act to someone they see as like deserving of it, can it?
Of course, and especially when it comes to deepfake, and you mentioned Grok, these tools are freely available. Anybody can click and play, and it actually is very concerning about the wealth of victims that this opens us up to in the future.
And anyone listening right now hearing this for the first time, these tools are widely available. Please don't.
Please don't.
And I hope regulators catch up pretty quick and put the kibosh or stop platforms like Grok from being able to generate adult imagery, especially based on photographs of real people.
Most definitely. We've just passed a law today at the time of filming in the UK whereby it's illegal to request either an individual or a piece of computer equipment to develop these deepfakes. So that's going to be a huge development, and it's something that's very much needed worldwide.
Hopefully that comes to North America pretty soon. Back to your study, is there any other takeaways that you want people to know about these forms of sexual abuse and who's committing them?
The key takeaway for me is to flip that on its head and to say that lots of rhetoric goes into putting the blame on the victims. So, for example, they shouldn't have shared these images in the first place. They shouldn't be posting provocative or raunchy images on their social media. We need to make sure we're paying attention to the perpetrators of these crimes and keep the conversation focused on those individuals.
Well, Dean, it's been an informative chat. I really appreciate you coming on the show, sharing your research, and having this conversation with me.
Thank you, David. Lovely time.
Dr. Dean Fido is a forensic psychology professor at the University of Derby in the UK.
Welcome to Survivor 50.
February 25th on Global.
We chose you to represent 25 years of the greatest adventure on television.
It's the biggest season ever.
The twist is going to open up Pandora's box. Now I see Zach Brown on Survivor. Welcome to Survivor, Mr. Beast.
Feels a little like a high school reunion meets a massacre.
Survivor 50th season, Wednesday, February 25th on Global. Stream on Stack TV.